Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Myutant deck profile. Now Myutant is a really interesting fusion strategy that kind of have an interesting idea of the monsters used to banish their own kind of like a particular type of card to summon a particular other monster from deck, and then it's also have fusion synergies which are kind of really cool. And it's a deck that kind of get a little bit of support from the ban list with Emergency Teleport going back to 2, which now we have 8 starters in the deck instead of 7. And also, we got pretty much a few weeks ago reveal that in Battle of Chaos, we're going to get a new Mutant monster, which is going to make the deck a whole lot better. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to basically ask you if you want to subscribe to the channel. It's helped the channels a ton. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, please consider doing that. Also give a like into the video. Basically also let me know what do you think in the comments down below about the list and what you will change or what you will improve. And without further ado, let's jump right in the video itself. Alright, jumping right into the list itself, we're going to start things off with the starters first, which are the triple copies of ST46, followed up by the 3 copies of M05. Now these are the 2 most important cards in your deck. Basically, both of them kind of do the same thing, except ST46, which is ST stands for Spells and Traps, search for your spells and traps on summon, and M05, which M stands for Monsters, search for your monsters on summon. Now, I'm going to say this right now, basically the monsters that this card can summon, the only one that you're going to summon at least right now until we get the Battle of Chaos support is going to be ST46, because the other monsters that you can search are bricks, because those monsters are supposed to be the monsters that you summon with their second effect. So, ST46 is your main core card, and M05 is supposed to support it. Now, seeing this turn 1 is not bad, and even later, sometimes searching your bricks sometimes can work with your field spell to put them on the bottom of your deck and draw a card, but mostly ST46 is the better card. As for the second, very much nice secondary effect is the effect that you get to basically tribute them, and then you get to banish 1 card from your hand or face up from your field, and depending on the type of card, you get to special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck, which if it's a monster, it's going to be someone called Mutant Beast, spell is going to be Mutant Mist, and trap is going to be Mutant Arsenal. And these can, both of the effects are harder ones per turns for each of them, so basically if you have 2 of them, this can summon, for example, an Arsenal by banishing a trap and tributing itself, and this, for example, can banish a monster from your hand and tribute itself and summon the beast. This is how kind of like they work. Now once we'll get the new guy, which helps the deck quite a bit, the deck is going to become a lot better, but for now, these are your 2 starters that you have in the deck. Like I said, ST46 is the better one. As for the big boys themselves, we run 1 copy of Beast, 1 copy of Mist, and 1 copy of Arsenal. This is, in my opinion, the ratio that you want to run. Beast could be argued to run a 2, but I think like one of each of these brick cards is more than enough than what you need. Beast is basically, like I said, when you banish a spell, not a spell, a monster with your mutant monster tribute, you get to summon it. Mist is a spell, and Arsenal is a trap. And all of them are not affected by the, or should I say, untargetable by the type of card that you use to summon them. So, untargetable by monster effects, untargetable by spell effects, and untargetable by trap effects. Now, they also have their own individual effects and also recovery effects when they die by an opponent card effects. Basically, when Beast die by an opponent card effect, you get to add a mutant trap that is banished back to your hand. Mist is a monster, and Arsenal is a spell. And then when it comes to their own individual effect, Beast, when a spell is activated, you get to banish any card from your hand or field, negate the activation if you do banish that card. Mutant Arsenal, when a trap is activated, you get to banish a card from your hand or field and draw 2 cards. And Arsenal, when a monster effect is activated, you get to banish a card from your hand or field, any type, of course, and then you get to banish a monster on the field. Or should I say, banish a monster on the field. Doesn't negate it, unfortunately, but you get to banish. Unfortunately, it's also target, but, you know, it get to banish whatever you want specifically. So let's say your opponent's trying to summon, like, something with Haki Fibrax directly from the deck. You'll still be able to banish the Haki Fibrax, but they'll still get the tuner. That's kind of how that works. So these are your one-offs. You don't want to play more than each of them because they aren't summable by any other way than the Mutant's tributes. Although they could be summoned from the hand, you rather not see them as much as possible. And there are ways to recycle them back in the deck, so you shouldn't really worry about them being one of each, which we'll get to that when we'll get to that. But that does it for the Mutant core of monsters, only 9. Then for the hand trap, only hand trap, at least monster department hand trap I run, is D-Shifter. This card is absolutely bonkers. This card is ridiculous. When you activate this card, if you have no cards in your graveyard, you get to basically make it that any card sent to the graveyard for until the end of the next turn is banished instead. So even during your main phase 1, you can just like send this to the graveyard after you activate an extravagance as a response. Basically force anything that your opponent sent to the graveyard get banished for their next turn, so we'll have a little bit more of a harder time to break your boards, which is absolutely insane. So this card is really, really good. And also just going second, this card is just like kills almost everything that it deals, because this meta is very, very much graveyard centric, and there are a lot of decks that are really based around graveyard effects. And Myutant doesn't really care. They actually like their card banished for the most part. But that does it for the monsters, only 12 of them. There's really not a whole lot that you want to run. In the spell department, however, it's even smaller. We have, first off, for the Mutant cards, we have 2 Evolution Lab, 1 Terraforming, and 1 Mutant Fusion when it comes to the case of department for the Mutant cards. Terraforming is supposed to be the 3rd copy of Mutant Evolution Lab, although I don't really think I even want this in the future, because I think 2 Evolution Labs is enough. But Evolution Lab is an important card. When it's activated, you get to special summon 1 level 4 lower mutant monster from your hand or that is banished. So let's say you use M05 effect to tribute itself, and then you banish an ST46 from your hand for its effect, and summon a beast. Then when you activate this, you get the effect to special summon the ST46, get the search, and then move on, which is really, really great. Now on top of that, this is also have the effect that Mutant monsters you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names. And then also once per turn during your main phase, you get to place 1 mutant monster from your hand to the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card, so you can just replace your bricks. It does clash with Pot of Extravagance or Prosperity if you decide to run them. I run Extravagance, which we'll get to that in a second. But if you have this as a kind of like a field spell that every single turn you are able to put whatever you don't want in your hand at the bottom of your deck. Terraforming is just a search, and then Mutant Fusion is kind of like a mini Shadow Fusion, I guess. It's allowing you to fusion summon 1 Mutant Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials from your hand or field. And then if your opponent activates a card or effect this turn, so it's even like if your opponent activates a hand trap during your turn, you're also able to banish 1 from your graveyard and 1 from your deck, 1 from each as well. So that is really, really great as just a nice reaction one-off. But that does it for those, and then for the rest of the spells, 3 Balls of Extravagance, as I mentioned before, double of the returned Emergency Teleport, and then 1 copy of Dimensional Shifter, or Dimensional Fissure, sorry. Dimensional Fissure, absolutely ridiculous floodgates. You just have to play this card. This card is really, really powerful and very, very annoying to deal with. There are, of course, Cosmic Cyclones and other stuff like that running the meta, but your opponent have to waste a card to get rid of this, which is really nice for you. Emergency Teleport, this is not a hard once per turn, and it's basically your 7th and 8th copies of your starters in the deck. Once we'll get the so-called card from Battle of Chaos, this is going to become 11 copies of cards in your deck, and maybe if this will come back to 3, it will be 12, but I actually think Emergency Teleport is the place that it needs to be, a 2, which is very, very good, but not absolutely broken, so I think that's absolutely fine. And then Extravagance, while you might want to actually run Prosperity instead if you want to have more room in your extra deck, I don't really think that does matter. It sometimes does clash with your cards because it can banish your 3 of your most important fusion monster, but it is what it is. It's more of like a card that helps you get more resources. If you have Prosperity, you can go for that instead. But that does it for the spells. Now we'll move on into the traps. And for the traps, first off, Mutant Traps, obviously. 3 copies of Mutant Cry, and then 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. Mutant Cry is a fusion spell that allows you to fusion summon Mutant Fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling fusion materials from your cards that are on the field, graveyard, or banished, which giving you the ability to return things like Mutant Beast, Arsenal, or mist if you need to back into your deck. So that is kind of cool. And that is kind of like the reason why I said that you shouldn't really worry about having only one copy of each of your mutant big guys, because this deck is able to return things from the banish pretty easily, even if your opponent banished for you cards. Then we have Expansion, which is on activation, allowing you to take a level 4 or lower mutant monster to even add it to your hand or special summon it, which most of the time is going to be special summon. So you're going to summon, for example, ST46 during the opponent's turn, get a search, or summon an M05, search an ST46, and basically having a monster on board. And then the other effect is that if a level 8 or higher mutant monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card you control instead. So it's also giving you an additional protection. Mostly this is going to be as a card that you're going to use in the field to summon like an arsenal or something when you get an effect. But it's still really nice to give you the additional, search and special summoning for your monsters. Definitely an interesting version of personal spooping in a way. And then, for the rest of the traps, we'll start off with the 3 of, so 3 for normal traps, which is 3 infinite permanents, you have our hand trap on the deck. 3 of the most annoying card ever, There Can Only Be Fun, which is a card that I absolutely despise, but I think it's actually really amazing in this deck. And then 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is absolutely self-explanatory in almost any trap-based deck. This is basically able to negate any monster effect, which is great by only paying 1500 and any special summoning, so that's pretty cool. There Can Only Be Fun is a card that people probably kind of like, I know it says there can only be one, but I like to say there can only be fun because that's kind of like what this card is all about. But the point is, like, some people actually ask me in the last list, is like, doesn't it clash with your fusions, which are psychics, and your little guys? Yes, it does. But one of the things that a lot of people forget is mutants' effects are cost. So, for example, let's say you're like you kind of like have to, you could just basically just send it to the graveyard with one of your effects, and then just turn this off for the entire field, and still be able to get what you want to get. So that is pretty cool. And Infinite Permanence is just a good hand trap. But that does it for those, and then for the one-offs, annoying continuous traps, 1 Imperial Order, 1 Skill Drain, and 1 Microcosmos. These cards are absolutely mandatory in my opinion. A bunch of annoying floodgates. Imperial Order, just the most annoying card probably in the format ever. Skill Drain is also pretty annoying, and like I said, mutant effects are cost, so you don't really care about this being on the field. You can just use cost, tribute one of the monsters, and if you need to, get rid of this, but even if not, you tribute the monster, the effect will still resolve because it resolves in the graveyard. And then Macrocosmos is just a great card to just, again, be kind of like your second Dimensional Fissure, which is annoying as hell, and like Dimensional Fissure on cracks, which is ridiculous. So I love the card a lot. But that does it for the main deck, 40 cards. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. And for the extra deck, we'll start with the fusions first. Only 2 fusions, unfortunately, which is Ultimaeus and Synthesis. The one that you want to summon most of the time, and the one that I'm kind of like afraid with Prosperity to banish is, or should I say Extravagance to banish is Synthesis, because Synthesis is the one that you summon the most because of its effects that it says that, or should I say Fusion Materials, which is 2 mutants with different names. Now, of course, I keep saying this like a repeated CD, that basically the moment that we're going to get the Battle of Chaos support, this is going to become so much better, because the idea is that this requires 2 different attributes, mutants, which sometimes does clash with the cards that you have in your field, so you want to use this, but once we'll get to that level 1 in Battle of Chaos, this is going to become a lot more easier to use. Now, this card is also really great on someone that pops a card. It's also protects itself from different types of, depending on what your opponent activated, and when it dies, when opponent card effects can add any of your banished mutant cards. Then we have Ultimaeus, which is basically a big version of Mikaba. It's allowing you to banish any mutant card from your graveyard or in spawn for, like, an activated spell or trap effect. So you banish this certain type, or should I say type of card from your graveyard, and then negate the card. And then when it dies, it's recover 3 different mutants, cards from your banish zone, which is one of them has to be a monster, one has to be a spell, and one has to be a trap. And it also could be up to, so you don't really force to actually add 3. So that is also really great about Ultimaeus. Ultimaeus is very, very hard to summon though, but it's still very, very much a good card. And like I said, again, once we'll get that new monster, this is going to be a lot more easier to summon. And then for the rest of the extra deck is honestly up to you. I just decided to run a bunch of links that I kind of like sometimes going to use until, we'll get more stuff. 1 Cross Sheep, 1 IP, 1 Barricade Blood Blocker, 1 Cerberus, 1 Phoenix, 1 Unicorn, 1 Burrow Sword Dragon, 1 copy of Crusadia Avermax, and then 1 copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I don't know why I kind of like got stopped there for a second, but this is the line of links that I want to run. Again, you can choose to run whatever you want instead. If you want to run the Glubion package, you can do that. If you want to run more fusions and also Dogmatic Punishment, you can do that. I just decided to go with these because I like them. This able to cover for you the field spell if you have to. This is just a great way to also interrupt the opponent. These are just basically nice OTK tools / annoying boss monster to deal with. These are just removing stuff. This is if you're able to get 2 monsters, make this, and then just summon the fusion and get a free summon, which be one of your little mutant guys, which will give you a free search. This one is just a really nice card to help you tag to whatever you need. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. But that does it for the extra deck and does it for the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed as an overall. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing really whole lot of changed except from the fact that we got the second copy of Emergency Teleport, which is still great by itself, but until Battle of Chaos, I think the deck is not really going to change that much. So hope you all enjoyed, and now let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices, we have, as usual, 4 choices, and just like last week, we have these 4 choices for the final time. So this is your final time to choose which one of these you want to see. I have a very close call between 2 of these, so if you want a specific one to see more and you haven't voted yet, let me know in the comments down below what you want to see. Now, the 4 options, as pretty much like I said before, are going to be Mellophos, Rose Dragons, Vendrids, and Cubics. These are the 4 decks that you have the option to choose from. Let me know in the comments down below what you want to see more, and that is pretty much it for the video. So, hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you do. If you have any comments, like I said, to start a video to how to improve the deck, let me know in the comments down below as well, because I'm very interested to see different kind of builds of, mutant decks, because there are some different ratios that people like to run, and different kind of traps, because, different meta games, and this is a control-based deck, and traps is in a different kind of, depending on the meta game. These are the traps that you want to run for your own pocket meta, which is kind of really cool. So let me know in the comments down below. But remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.